Viewer discretion advised.
The Pure Genius Podcast. Probably not PG.
I ran into something very interesting in terms of gain staging.
Mm-hmm.
So you know how like every fucking sample you ever get is limited to shit. So like when you
put
put
it's at 0 VUs usually.
yeah, well, depending on what your
Well,
VU
if it's a
setting, right?
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's usually at just under
negative
0 dB,
18 or negative
dBFS,
16,
right? Because you don't want it to clip,
mm-hmm.
right? So they usually just limit it at minus 0.1 and just fucking
Mm-hmm.
just hit the top of the limiter ceiling, so that when you import the sample, because it's gonna sound great on Splice,
Yeah.
in that instance,
Yeah,
when you
course.
preview it. However, when you put it into Ableton, you know how when you put like a kick sample in, there's that little meter on your chain
Mm-hmm.
that's showing the input into your chain, and that's going to be capped at, or that's going to be hitting around 0 dB.
Yeah, well, that's why when you put the sampler in there, it always starts at negative 12.
Yeah, so I started just doing the gaining on the sample instead of throwing a utility on there,
Yeah.
and it's different.
Yeah.
It's different because
Different algorithm probably.
if
for
you're
volume.
if you're coming in hot on the chain, it
clip
still adds
differently.
distortion no matter
Mhm.
what. So if you have to turn it down immediately, like on the sample.
Mhm.
So I did that in one of my tracks, and it sounds a lot cleaner.
Yeah,
Like a
that's
lot cleaner.
what I've seen in the past.
And
too.
the gain staging in the signal chain is super fucking important.
Yeah. I've
through it-
heard that before too, and I've never taken it seriously
Absolutely
because
not,
I've
yeah.
seen so many DJs get certain sounds by redlining it.
But if that's not the sound
But
you're going
exactly,
for, then
that's just lack of knowledge,
There's-
though, right? If you don't understand that, you don't know how to fix it.
yeah, like there's a certain because
Lack of knowledge on my part.
well, in anyone's part, really, because people will say in the digital realm it doesn't matter, and to an extent they're true. They're right, because you can go in way hotter
Mhm.
in the digital realm. Like in analog world, you wouldn't want to come in any higher than minus 12 dBs. Like
Mhm.
that's top. Otherwise, you're going to get hissing or distortion. But in the digital realm, you can go all the way up to 0.
Well, and
technically,
that's the difference between DBUs
BFS.
and DBFS,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because DBFS 0 is basically negative 12. I think it's negative 16 DBU.
14.
14?
14.
16, 14. I don't know.
14.
I've heard 16, 14. I've heard 18.
Minus 14 dBFS is 0 VU in the analog realm, to my knowledge. Shit. I lost my train of thought. I was going to say
Gain
something.
staging?
There was one instance where I said, or where I went into a plugin without any gain staging, and I went in hot, and that was the Ableton Saturator, because the soft clipper acts a lot differently
Yeah.
when you're coming in hot.
But again, like you said, you can change that with the bass. If you set the bass of the saturator, you can still get that clip by just moving the
you
bass
could.
down, right?
What's nice though is if you come into the plugin hot and then you soft clip and then you turn down the output,
yeah.
and then you don't need another utility. You're using the saturator as a utility as well. So you add some heat to it, and then you turn it down for the next plugin.
Yeah.
I know that OTT acts extremely differently
Yeah.
when you're coming in at a proper level.
Yeah, well, that you can change too, because if you're coming in at a hot level, you can just move the multiband. I don't even know where that is, but the point where the compression meets.
Yeah.
If you like move that up, you get more room for the sound to come in.
There's also
It's just because when you come in really hot, you're hitting the compressor really
Yeah.
hard, right?
Well, yeah, and to my knowledge, you can actually there's an input meter or knob on the compressor
On OTT.
on the multiband dynamics. I'm pretty sure there's just an input you can turn down.
Oh yeah. There's input on output.
Yeah, I don't know how those work though.
Well, those when you have OTT, the input levels are set up in a certain way, so you
yeah,
can
that's why I didn't
fuck with them.
That's why I didn't want to.
But that's why I think is if instead of fucking with those, you just move the bottom up, above and below compression.
Yeah.
You just move it to the left or right, depending on if it's lower or higher.
Yeah.
And you get that same kind of compression. I mean, obviously, dialing it in is going to take some time if you really want it to be perfect. But
Absolutely, yeah.
OTT
Yeah.
is not really supposed to be perfect.
No,
It fucks
I
everything
actually
up anyway.
I had a lot of success with turning off certain channels on the OTT too.
Yeah. If you turn
Yeah.
off your bass channel,
Yeah,
that's nice.
it like unfucks your sound completely. You're
Mhm.
like, why is this sounding weird?
Yeah, but I mean, the OTT setting for the bottom end is 88.3 below. right?
Yeah, and
So
as
it's
soon as you
really
fuck with that, it
sub-frequencies.
changes your whole sound. So if you just turn off the channel,
and just let it
works
bleed
fine.
through,
Yeah,
yeah.
it works fine. Yeah,
I can't remember who I saw doing that, but I saw somebody doing that in a tutorial recently.
yeah, I did that
Oh, it might have been barely alive.
because I was bouncing my track out to stems, and I was just like checking all the tracks to make sure they weren't clipping and all that stuff. And I ran into a few weird hissing, or not hissing, but ringing sounds. And as soon as I turned off, there was one where I turned off the high channel. I just turned it off and let it come through the low and the mids, and it stopped like this weird ringing sound that was happening. It was just going after for the decay. I don't know why.
Yeah, the OTT does
Yeah,
that.
it just does that.
It's to do with the, I would believe, the release setting, but I don't know if it's the above or the below. Probably the above. The release, but I mean the release setting.
You have
Yeah,
a
you
release
can-
setting for each one, though.
Yeah, you have a release setting for all of them on above, below, on every channel. So yeah, if you change that release setting,
It might help.
it might help, but it also might just make OTT sound like not OTT.
Yeah, that's the thing about OTT is as soon as you change any setting, it ends up sounding a little different or a lot different.
Yeah.
Yeah.